Good afternoon, all. This is Rich Lucy. I am a Prevention Program Manager here in the Drug Enforcement Administration in our Community Outreach and Prevention Support section. And welcome to the second of our two informational calls about our recently opened Red Ribbon Week Campus Video PSA Contest. This is the first year in the 3 years that we've now run the contest where we are holding these calls for interested individuals and potential entrants to answer any questions they might have about the contest. So we're going to go through a brief PowerPoint presentation first. We're going to show you our last 2 years winners so you can get a sense of what those schools did with their PSA. And then we're going to open it up to questions that you might have. David, do you want to let our entrants know, our participants on the call, how they can ask a question?
Absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Arnold. I'm so pleased to be a partner with Rich in this process. There is a chat feature here in the Ring Central meeting that we are all a part of. You will be muted for the entire call, but you are welcome to use that chat box to ask any questions you'd like of Rich. And I will go ahead and vet those while Rich is doing his presentation. And when we get to the end of the presentation, there'll be some time for some questions. And I will relay those to Rich and he will get answers out to all of you. Thank you so much for making some time to be with us. And again, that chat box should be located right there in the bottom part of the controls, or if you've moved the controls around, wherever you have added those.
Great. Thank you, David. And so the first slide you're seeing there is our agenda. But before I get to that, I do want to give a shout out to David and the rest of the folks at NASPA. DEA thanks them for their partnership, not only in promoting the contest, which opened last Monday, on the middle of September, but also we want to thank NASPA for their help in providing logistical support for these calls and for later on in the judging process. So David, please relay that to all of your colleagues at NASPA. So here's our agenda. We're going to provide a brief history of Red Ribbon Week and then an overview of the contest's goals. We'll talk about eligibility, what are the requirements of the PSA, how they'll be judged, how we'll notify the winner and what the winner gets. Then we'll talk briefly about the contest website and provide you with my contact information so that if you have questions or need more information as the contest entry period goes on, you can get in touch with me. And then as David said, we'll do the Q&A when we get to the end of the presentation. So David, if you would, advance us to our next slide. Thank you. So a little bit about Red Ribbon Week and its history. It really started more than 30 years ago, and it all started with a special agent of the DEA, Enrique Kiki Camarena. So back in February of 1985, Special Agent Camarena was stationed in Guadalajara, Mexico, and he had been in Mexico for more than 4 years, and he was on the trail of marijuana and cocaine drug traffickers in that country. At 2 p.m. on February 7th, Kiki was going to meet his wife, Nika, for lunch, and as Kiki was about to enter his truck, 5 men approached and shoved him into a Volkswagen and sped away, and that was the last time Kiki was seen alive. In fact, Kiki's body was found about a month later in a shallow grave, and it was evident that he had been badly beaten and then brutally murdered. Shortly after Special Agent Camarena's death, California Congressman Duncan Hunter and Kiki's high school friend Henry Lozano had launched what they called a Camarena Club in Kiki's hometown of Calexo, California. And it was there that hundreds of club members pledged to live drug-free lives to honor Kiki. And in 1988, Red Ribbon Week was formally solidified by the National Family Partnership, with then President Reagan and Mrs. Reagan serving as the honorary chairpersons. And since that time, 80 million people each year participate in Red Ribbon activities each year. And again, Red Ribbon Week serves a twofold purpose. So David, if you would advance us to our next slide. Red Ribbon Week is a uniform way for communities nationwide to take a stand against drugs and drug use. So I said that it really serves as a twofold purpose. One, it does honor the ultimate sacrifice that Special Agent Camarena made in the line of duty. And then secondly, the Red Ribbon events and the activities help to educate individuals, families, and communities around the United States about the destructive effects of drug use. I say mainly the United States, but I do have to say that we do get calls from countries around the world asking us for materials related to Red Ribbon Week, whether they are promoting Red Ribbon Week for US citizens that happen to be in those countries at the time at some of the American schools there, or for their students in the native country. So we're really happy that it not only has a national presence, but it really does have an international reach as well. Historically, DEA's efforts around Red Ribbon Week have focused around elementary, middle, and high school students. But that actually expanded a couple of years ago in 2016, and it was as part of DEA's enhanced outreach and prevention support for colleges and universities. We launched the first annual Red Ribbon Week Campus Video PSA Contest in collaboration with our federal partners, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and specifically the Center for Substance Abuse Prevention. So David, if you would please advance us to our next slide, which will provide you with an overview of the contest goals. And there are three. One, we are looking to promote the importance of preventing alcohol and drug abuse among college students. Second, we want to demonstrate how students are taking action to prevent alcohol and drug abuse specifically on their campus. And then third, the goal is to inspire and challenge others to take action. Our next slide, David. So who's eligible? It's any college or university that offers an associate's or a bachelor's degree is eligible to apply. So the institution is the actual entrant, not an individual per se. The entry period, as I mentioned, we officially opened the contest last Monday, September 17th, and it runs through November 9th of this year. And now I'm going to get into some of the content and the technical requirements of what your entry consists of. So, David, you can easily scroll through these. I'll catch up with you as you do that. So, first of all, the PSA must be between 30 and 60 seconds. If a PSA entry exceeds 60 seconds, unfortunately, they will be disqualified. We've been in the situation, unfortunately, in the past two contests where somebody has submitted a PSA that ran 1 minute, 1 second, 1 minute, 2 seconds, and unfortunately, that does not comport with the official rules, and so they had to be disqualified. So please make sure that you check the timestamp on your entry before you submit it to ensure it fits within the 30 to 60 second time frame. Secondly, the PSA must focus on the underlying message behind Red Ribbon Week. And the way that we help do that is this year, something new is we are requiring that you include a mandatory end frame to the PSA, which we have provided for you on the contest website. And we'll give you that information later. But we've provided the actual image or slide, if you will, that needs to be displayed at the end of your PSA to help tie it in specifically with Red Ribbon Week. The PSA must focus on preventing alcohol abuse and drug abuse. Entries that focus only on one or the other will be disqualified. Some brief history about that. So DEA, alcohol is not within typically our purview as it's not a controlled substance, if you will. And so by partnering with our colleagues over at CSAP in the Center for Substance Abuse Prevention, many of you probably know that they have a significant portfolio that relates to underage drinking prevention. And so this is our way of ensuring that the PSA focuses on both preventing alcohol abuse and drug abuse among college students. Again, this is a disqualifying situation here. We've had last year we had a couple of PSAs that came in and they focused only on marijuana use prevention. Unfortunately, we had to disqualify them because there was the missing piece of one, alcohol abuse, And secondly, last year, there was the requirement that you had to focus on the misuse of prescription stimulants. We do not have that requirement this year. We have left it broadly open to you as entrants to determine which drug or drugs you want to include in your PSA to prevent. But the bottom line is, I'll reiterate, it has to focus on both preventing alcohol abuse and drug abuse. The PSA has to resonate with college students. That really is the intended audience for the PSA, so keep that in mind. If you're, as you determine who's my audience, we've laid that out for you. It's college students, not necessarily on your campus alone, but across the nation as well. Once you've shot your entry and you're ready to submit it, basically what you're going to do is you're going to upload the the entry to your own personal YouTube, Vimeo, or Dailymotion account. And then you will just simply provide us on the entry form with the link to view the video. If you're selected, then you'll give us the file later. But for now, you're simply providing us with the link to the video for the judges to watch. We also do not accept any entries that were previously submitted in a promotion of any kind or displayed previously in a public manner through any means. So these do have to be original works. If you've submitted in the past, that's not to say that you couldn't take that same concept and retool it. That certainly would be allowable, but to simply take a PSA that didn't win last year and resubmit it in its entirety without any kind of revision this year would disqualify it. And then lastly, as an entrant, you do need to ensure that you have obtained all of the necessary consents, approvals, or licenses. And we get into that a lot more in more detail in the official rules. But basically it says if you are showing people in your PSA, you need to have basically a signed statement from all of them that says they've agreed to be in this PSA. If you're using non-original music, you need to have the license to be able to use that music in your PSA. So it all goes to ensure that you are not infringing upon any copyright issues. So as I said, you can read all about that in the official rules piece. So now we're going to move on to, now that I've told you a little bit about what the PSA needs to include as far as requirements, now I want to talk to you a little bit about how they're going to be judged. So thank you, David, for advancing the slide. There are 3 evaluation criteria totaling 100 points. You'll see that the more significant weight of points, half of the total, goes to the appropriateness of the message, and then 30 points for creativity and originality, and 20 points for production value. So let me break down each of those for you just a little bit. So in terms of the appropriateness of the message, the judges are going to, 1, look to see how well the PSA focuses on, again, that underlying message behind Red Ribbon Week and committing to a healthy drug-free lifestyle. We want to look at how the PSA demonstrates how college students are taking action on their campus to prevent alcohol and drug abuse, and how does the PSA inspire and challenge others to take action. Think about PSAs that you have seen on TV and have heard on radio. That exactly is what a PSA is intended to do. It's intended to not only educate, but to inspire others to take action. And so that's exactly what should be happening here with your PSA. The creativity and originality criterion worth 30 points. The judges will be looking at whether the PSA is creative in its design and its execution. Is it exhibiting original ideas and concepts and content? And is it memorable? Is it relevant? And is it interesting? 1 minute can be a really long time to convey a message, and it also can go by in a blink of an eye. So to hold someone's attention for 30 to 60 seconds, you really want to ensure that it's memorable, relevant, and it's interesting. And then lastly, production value for 20 points. We want to ensure that the PSA holds the viewer's attention. It a little bit ties in with that memorable piece that I just mentioned. We want to ensure that it's strong and that it's appealing, The video quality needs to be of high resolution, and any graphics that you use, they need to be legible. And the audio quality needs to ensure that it is balanced and that it is audible. We've had a couple of situations in the past where entries, unfortunately, have been really on the barely audible side, and so they scored, bluntly, very poorly in that regard because the judges just simply couldn't hear what the PSA was conveying. So that's a little bit about the criteria. And let me tell you that all of the entries are judged by a 5-person panel. That panel is made up of 2 staff from here at DEA, 2 staff members from CSAP, and a college student. We practice what we preach, if you will, in the prevention field as many times as you've heard, that it really is helpful to get student input, a student perspective, a student voice. But we really include a college student on the judging panel to get their input and see how it resonates with them. Not that they are speaking for all 17 million plus college students in the United States, but it really is a barometer for us to ensure that the PSA resonates with them. As I mentioned before, every entry will get a score of 0 to 100, depending on how well they address those evaluation criteria. So now that you've heard how they're going to be judged, David, if you will, I'll tell you a little bit about how we'll notify the winner and what they will receive. So on or about December 10th of 2018 is when DEA will notify the winner. Actually, that will be by way of an email that will come directly from me to the person who's listed as the contact, if you will, as the entrant for the contest. And winning university will receive 3 things. They will receive a plaque to commemorate the achievement. They will also then, a change from our last 2 years, an increase, if you will, in the award money. They will receive $3,000 to support the campus's drug abuse prevention efforts. And we will also provide a full ride for up to 2 people to attend NASPA's Strategies Conference, which is held in Washington, D.C. this year, and it's on January 17th through the 19th of 2019. So again, a trip for up to 2 people, and we will cover your transportation, your lodging, your per diem, and your other local transportation expenses, as well as registration fees for the conference. So it's a pretty nice prize package, if you will. I can speak, for professional development purposes, the Strategies Conference has really evolved into being a premier national conference to be at, to learn on these issues, as well as issues related to mental health issues among college students, sexual assault, sexual violence prevention among college students, as well as alcohol and other drug abuse prevention. So that's a great professional development opportunity. And then the $3,000, that's a significant amount of money, I know, for some campuses around the country. And that can be used pretty much carte blanche. There are no ties specifically tied to that money. However, once you're notified that if you are fortunate to be the winner, then you are going to do 3 things. You're going to submit the video file to us in an approved format. You'll see that in the rules, but it's your typical video file like .mov or .wmv or an MPEG, if you will. Then we also have the winning university sign an affidavit of eligibility, liability, and publicity release. That basically is you as an entrant telling us, yes, I was an eligible applicant. I've secured all of the necessary licenses and rights that I've needed to. And for the publicity release, it's telling DEA and SAMHSA that you can use this video however you see fit, whenever you see fit, for as long as you see fit. And that essentially allows us to use it in perpetuity. This is something different that we're doing this year as well. The third piece is that we're asking the winner to provide us with a brief description of how they intend to use the award funds. Again, there's no tie to that per se, but we just want to have a sense, if asked by accountability offices and such, are they using it to further evaluate a program? Are they using it to bring a speaker or speakers in to the campus to talk about drug abuse prevention? Are they using the money to purchase surveys so that they can get a really good snapshot of how much alcohol and other drugs their students might be using on the campus? So those are just a few examples, but that's basically what we're looking for there. So that's what the winner will get. David will go on to our next slide. So the official contest webpage is on our flagship campus website, campusdrugprevention.gov, and /PSA contest. That is the page you want to go to learn everything that you wanted to know about the contest, but were afraid to ask. We've got the official rules there. We've got a checklist there, so you can make sure you've crossed all your T's and dotted your I's before you submit your entry. We've got a series of frequently asked questions on the website. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the mandatory end frame posted there so you can grab it and include it at the end of your entry. And then if you have any questions, you know, after you've had a chance to digest all of the information given to you today in this call, you certainly can get in touch with me as here, who is overseeing the contest. Email is usually best, just because we always have our BlackBerries or our iPhones with us, and can get back to people when we're on the road and such, but certainly you can feel free to call me direct. That is my direct line if you have any particular questions. What I can tell you is I'm not allowed to provide you with any specifics about your content and what you should or shouldn't do and whether it will or will not resonate with the judges. I can't get into the specifics about your concept and such like that. That's totally on you, but the technical and content requirements about the content itself, that I can provide you with guidance on. So as we get ready to conclude this part of the presentation, we thought it might be helpful, if you haven't seen them in the past, or even if you have, to revisit them. We wanted to show to you the last two winners of the PSA contest. Hopefully the audio will work. If not, that's something we'll fix later, but we'll just run through both of them, and then we'll, you know, you'll get a sense of what other schools have done. So the first one you're going to see is from 2016, and our winner that year was Keene State College in New Hampshire.
Because I have a test to study for.
I have better things to spend my money on.
Because I want to stay healthy.
Because I've lost friends to addiction.
Because I'm too busy.
I don't want to let my team down.
Because I'm in recovery. Because I like being in control.
What's your why not?
All right, and as we get ready to tee up the winning PSA from last year, let me say, I know that what we watched here, the audio, first of all, the video seemed jumpy and the audio didn't seem synced. That could be a buffering issue on just our side. It could be through the online meeting platform that we're using with NASPA, not sure. But you can see both of these PSAs directly on the contest page. We've got them there, so if you click on them and watch them directly through the YouTube channel, pretty much guarantee that they won't have that what seemed like maybe a technical abnormality there. They all play very well, and especially if you want to use them somehow. So last year, our winner was from Towson University. You saw in Keene State College, it was a group of students that put this together. Last year, Raven Jackson from Towson University. Raven she graduated, was an electronic and film media major. She also was a student assistant in the university's Alcohol and Other Drug Prevention Center. So she combined those two things, both her major and things that she did on the side in the prevention center, to come up with last year's winning PSA. So David, if you would.
Being a college student is a balancing act. It doesn't take much to tip the scale. In times like this, students may reach for unproductive or even destructive ways of relief. Prescription drug abuse is rising in the state of Maryland. Between 2015 and 2016, the number of unintentional overdoses had risen by 61%. Although recreational drug abuse is growing in college campuses, students don't have to follow this trend. There are always healthier alternatives, so it's important to take time out to realize what is best for you, whether it be campus activities, self-care, or professional campus resources. College is about solidifying your identity as an adult and developing habits that can make or break you. Don't let drug abuse break you.
Thank you, David. So actually, you just saw there at the end of Raven's PSA from Towson is that end frame we talked about. We changed it up from the first year. You might recall you saw our promotional badge with the red ribbon wrapped around it, which we still use, but we determined that the mandatory end frame would be what Raven used last year, and so that's what you can grab from the website and what we are requiring you to use at the end of your entry in the PSA that you submit. So that concludes the formal presentation here. Appreciate you listening to a little bit of history about Red Ribbon Week, the goals of the contest, as well as the eligibility requirements, the content and technical requirements, and the evaluation criteria and judging, and how we plan to notify the winner and what the winner gets. So with that, David, I'm going to check in with you and see if any of the participants have asked a question through the chat feature, and if so, well, what are they?
You know, it seems that we were fairly comprehensive in our presentation because I don't have any questions. As Rich mentioned, we will make sure that we link to the videos that were included as well in case the audio did not work for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, David. So our intent is to, we recorded the presentation today, so it will be archived and it will be placed on campusdrugprevention.gov on the contest page for your future reference if you want to go back to the presentation. And again, you'll be able to grab my contact information there. If a question occurs to you now after you've had a little bit of a time to process what it is that you're thinking about doing for the contest. So with that, I do want to once again thank NASPA. Also thank our colleagues at CSAP for their partnership in this contest for now 3 years running. And also want to thank those of you who called in today to learn a little bit more about the contest. Hope we've answered your questions and whetted your appetite to submit an entry. And with that, I'm going to say thank you and have a good day.